Why do Orthodox Jewish married women cover their hair? This is going to be quick. It's going to be a lot of information, so hold on to your seats. It seems to boil down to a mistranslated word of the Torah. However, it is taken from a different authoritative source entirely. The Torah does not say that a woman has to cover her hair. Instead, when it's talking about the wayward woman, the sota, the married woman who went astray, that she should be brought before the Kohen and her head is porea. What does porea mean? A lot of people try to say it means uncovered, but we're going to see that it means unbound. Moses came down from the mountain and he saw the molten calf. The same uses word for the people. The people were porea, meaning they were unbound, they were out of control. Clearly, being uncovered makes no sense. Further, the Torah says that Aaron's two sons passed. Moses warned Aaron and his remaining sons not to show mourning publicly because they still had service to do. The Torah says they shall not faru and their clothes shall not rend. In other words, their hair should not be allowed to grow loose and grow wild and unkempt, not uncovered. That makes no sense. When a person who has a tsaras affliction, by him it says that his clothes should be rend, and again, it uses the same word because his hair should not be kept kempt. He should let it go out of control because he is suffering the affliction. Similarly, the Nazarite, the aesthetic too, it says, no razor shall touch his head, and the hair of his head shall be pharea. Again, unbound, unkempt. Thus, the Torah is very clear that a married woman, before the Kohen, the Torah says, the Kohen priest shall stand her before Hashem and unbind her hair, because her hair would have been in braids. Archaeological and historical evidence indicates that women of yore who were married would bind their hair and braid their hair to indicate that they were married. In the Talmud, it says, Rav Shesha says, that the hair of a woman is considered to be a nakedness, an erva. That word doesn't mean literal nakedness, but refers to a distraction for a person who wants to say God's name or pray or learn Torah in front of her. Therefore, the Talmud had said that a woman's legs and her voice are also considered erva. A person may not pray or learn Torah if he hears a woman's voice or sees her legs or her hair. And this refers to any woman above puberty, not necessarily a married woman. So therefore, there's no obligation there to cover the hair. Incidentally, while tznius is a completely different topic, the Talmud does not state that women must cover the hair. It just means that a man who prays or learns Torah should not be facing a woman with an uncovered hair. Talmud states further in a Mishnah that says that a woman could get divorced if she violates the law of the Jews or law of Moses. What is example of the law of the Jews? A custom that not directly require biblical law, but that Jews follow. An example is a woman who goes out with her hair unbound. How do we know that it means unbound, not uncovered? Because the Mishnah first tries to say that it's in the category of biblical, and therefore should be the law of Moses, because it comes from the Sota woman where her hair was unbound. And the Gemara says, however, even if she covers her hair with a basket, it is insufficient. Meaning, it's not about covering her hair, but going out unbound. Rambam in Mishnah Torah uses the same word. And he says, all Jewish women should not walk in the marketplace with their hair unbound. It makes no sense that even young girls should have to cover their hair. It means all girls and all women used to bind their hair. Shulchan Aruch does use the word covered, but only in the laws in regards to when a person could say the Shema prayer in front of a woman who normally covers her hair. However, it says virgins and unmarried women who do not usually cover their hair, he may say the Shema, learn Torah in front of them. However, again, this was a practice, not a requirement. In those days, in the Middle Ages, when this was written, it was the practice of married women to cover their hair, Jews and non-Jews both. The nuance here is not that the hair has to be covered. The nuance is that a woman who does not cover her hair, a man may recite Shema in front of her if she's not married. Further, Ramah says a man may not recite Shema in front of even his own wife's uncovered hair if she has a practice of always covering it. However, hair that comes out of a cover or is usually kept out of a cover, and certainly a wig that is made of someone else's hair, the man can recite Shema and say God's name in front of her. It is interesting to note that none of the poskim, the authorities, say that a woman has an obligation to cover her hair. The obligation is on the man not to say Shema in front of the woman who has uncovered hair. There certainly is a custom for married women to cover her hair. It is just a misunderstanding or mistranslation? No. The real obligation upon a woman to cover her hair comes from, you guessed it, the Zohar. Zohar says a woman for whom a hair of her head emerges from its covering causes sorrow to her home. For this reason, it is required of a woman that even the walls of her home not see a single hair of her head. How much more so if she goes outside? This comes from the Talmud, a paraphrase, where it's talking about a woman, Kimches. She had great merit, and the Talmud says the reason why she had great merit is because the beams of her house never saw the braids of her hair. This implies she kept her hair covered even inside her house. However, like the Zohar is wont to do, it added much more religious guilt to this Talmud on a commentary of the Sota. It's interesting also to note that the Talmud states the beams never saw her braids. That is another proof that married women wore braids. In sum, there is no positive obligation, biblical, rabbinical, for a woman to cover her hair. There is a rabbinical decree on a man not to say brachos, pray, or learn Torah facing a married woman who has uncovered hair. There is a custom for biblical times for Jewish women to have braided hair once they get married. It is unclear if this is only married women. The Rambam seems to think so, but most other authorities seem to see it's only married women. These days, there is a standard custom for women to cover their hair. It is neither biblical or rabbinic, but it became a minhag, a custom. The custom became much more strongly kept from the 16th and 17th centuries with the expansive reverence given to the Zohar by Eastern European rabbis. Any questions, let me know.